You've just died. You don't know where you are. The world you knew is gone. No light, no sound, no familiar faces. And then, out of the darkness, something steps toward you. It has the body of a man, but the head of a jackal, black as midnight, with golden eyes that see straight through you. It knows everything you've ever done, everything you've ever thought, and it has been waiting for you. Not to punish you, not to judge you, to guide you, to make sure you get where you're going safely. This is Anubis, and he might be the most misunderstood god in all of ancient mythology. Welcome back to Mythos Uncovered, and today we're leaving ancient Greece behind and traveling to the banks of the Nile, because Egyptian mythology deserves its own spotlight. And there is no better place to start than with the god of the dead himself, the jackal-headed guardian, the weigher of souls, the one who was there at the very beginning of death and has never left. Let's get into it. Anubis is one of the oldest gods in the entire Egyptian pantheon. We're talking about a deity whose worship stretches back roughly 5,000 years. To put that in perspective, when the ancient Greeks were writing the myths we covered in our last 2 episodes, Anubis had already been worshipped for over 2,000 years. He is ancient even by ancient standards. His name in ancient Egyptian was Anpu, and he was depicted almost always the same way. The lean, muscular body of a man and the sleek black head of a jackal, with tall pointed ears and a long narrow snout. Always in black, always alert, always watching. The black coloring was not chosen randomly. The ancient Egyptians were precise and deliberate in their symbolism, and black in their visual language did not mean darkness or evil the way it might in modern Western culture. Black was the color of the rich, fertile soil left behind by the flooding of the Nile, the soil that made Egypt one of the most agriculturally abundant civilizations of the ancient world. Black meant fertility, renewal, rebirth. The color of Anubis was the color of life coming back from death. Everything about him, right down to his skin, was about transformation and return. As for the jackal, jackals in ancient Egypt were commonly seen prowling around cemeteries and the edges of the desert at night. The Egyptians noticed this, and rather than finding it ominous, they made a characteristically logical leap. If jackals are always near the dead, perhaps they are protecting them. Perhaps they are guardians. And so the jackal became sacred, and Anubis became its divine embodiment, the ultimate protector of everything that lay beneath the earth. Now the mythology around Anubis shifted quite significantly over the thousands of years of Egyptian civilization, and that's something a lot of people don't realize. In the earliest texts, the pyramid texts, some of the oldest religious writings ever discovered, Anubis is the supreme god of the dead, full stop. No Osiris above him, no panel of judges, no elaborate weighing ceremony. Just Anubis, presiding over the realm of the dead with total authority. But as the cult of Osiris grew in prominence, Anubis was gradually woven into the Osiris story and given a new origin and a new role. This is how mythology works. Gods absorb each other, stories merge, and the result is richer and sometimes stranger than either original version. In the Osiris myth, which became the dominant framework of Egyptian religion for most of its history, Anubis is the son of Osiris and Nephthys. Nephthys was the wife of Set, the god of chaos and disorder. And when she became pregnant by Osiris, she was terrified of what Set would do. So when Anubis was born, she hid him in the marshes of the Nile Delta, and it was Isis who eventually found him and raised him as her own. Anubis grew up devoted to Isis and Osiris, and that devotion would be tested almost immediately. Set, jealous of Osiris' power, murdered him and dismembered his body, scattering the pieces across Egypt. Isis and Nephthys searched the entire country and gathered everything back together. And when they had done so, it was Anubis who performed the first act of mummification in history. He wrapped the body of Osiris. He preserved it. He spoke the sacred rites over it. And because of what Anubis did, Osiris was able to be resurrected as the king of the afterlife. This is why mummification was so central to Egyptian funerary practice for thousands of years. Every embalmer in ancient Egypt was reenacting what Anubis had done for Osiris. Many of them wore jackal masks during the ceremony to make that identification explicit. But his role didn't end at the tomb. It was just beginning. In the Hall of Two Truths, one of the most dramatic scenes in all of Egyptian mythology, the soul of the dead would arrive for judgment. The hall was presided over by Osiris, surrounded by 42 divine judges. And at the center stood a set of scales. On one side of the scales was the heart of the dead person. The ancient Egyptians believed the heart was the seat of the soul, the record of your entire life. Every thought and deed and choice you had ever made written into it like a document. On the other side of the scales was a single feather, the feather of Maat, goddess of truth, justice, and cosmic order. If your heart balanced against the feather, if you had lived a life of truth and had not committed the wrongs listed in the sacred negative confession, your heart was light. You passed. You moved on to the field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise, where life continued in a perfected and eternal form. If your heart was heavier than the feather, it was fed to Ammit, a creature with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippo, and the soul ceased to exist entirely. Not punishment, not suffering, obliteration. The ancient Egyptians considered the complete erasure of the self to be the worst possible fate, and who operated the scales? Anubis. He stood at the balance, steady and precise, and he weighed every soul that passed through that hall with perfect, unwavering fairness. Hey, quick pause right here. If you're enjoying this, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It genuinely helps this channel grow and means more myths, more stories, more uncovering. All right, back to Anubis. What strikes modern scholars most about Anubis is how consistently benevolent he is across 5,000 years of Egyptian religious tradition. In a mythology full of gods who are capricious, vengeful, and unpredictable, and Egyptian mythology absolutely has those, Anubis is remarkably stable. He doesn't have a story where he loses his temper and destroys something. He doesn't betray a friend or pursue a mortal out of jealousy. He shows up, he does his work, and his work is always in service of the dead. The Egyptians prayed to Anubis, not in fear, but in hope. Tomb inscriptions ask him to protect the deceased and ensure safe passage. He was trusted. He was beloved. He was the god you wanted on your side when the moment came, because you knew he would be fair. His influence spread well beyond Egypt, too. When Greek culture began to blend with Egyptian religion, following Alexander the Great's conquest in 332 BC, Anubis merged with the Greek messenger and guide of the dead, Hermes, to create a composite deity called Hermanubis, worshipped across the Mediterranean world. By the time of the Roman Empire, temples to Anubis could be found as far away as Britain. A god born on the Nile, worshipped on the Thames. 5,000 years of continuous relevance is something very few gods in human history can claim. In modern culture, Anubis is everywhere once you start looking. In films, in video games, in tattoos, in novels, and in Neil Gaiman's American Gods. There is something about the image that refuses to fade across the centuries. Maybe it's because death is the one thing every human being has in common, and Anubis is the god who treats it with the seriousness and the care it deserves. He doesn't make death glamorous. He doesn't make it terrifying. He makes it fair. He stands at the scales with perfect steadiness and weighs what you were against the feather of truth. In a world that often feels profoundly unfair, there is something deeply comforting about a god whose entire purpose is to make sure that at the very end, the scales balance. So, Anubis, not a villain, not a demon, not a symbol of darkness, a guardian, a guide. the most faithful god in a mythology built on transformation, standing at the border between this world and whatever comes next, making sure no soul walks into eternity alone. The myths always have more in them than we first think. That's why we're here. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Mythos Uncovered. It genuinely means a lot that you spend your time here with me diving into these ancient stories. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe now and hit the bell so you never miss a new myth. And drop a comment below telling me what myth or legend you want me to cover next. Every single comment gets read, and the next video might just come from you. I'll see you in the next one.